I'm about to tell you something that happened to me, and it's still hard to talk about. It's a story about trust, betrayal, and how I found the strength to reclaim my life. I hope that by sharing this, it might help someone else who finds themselves in a similar, unimaginable situation. It all started when I was 19. I met him through a mutual friend. Let's call him Alex. Alex was charming, funny, and incredibly attentive. He seemed like everything I could ever want. We fell in love quickly, and for a while, everything felt perfect. He was my first serious boyfriend, my first everything, really. I trusted him completely. We talked about the future, about building a life together. He made me feel safe, cherished, and seen. That feeling of safety. It's ironic, thinking about it now. A couple of years into our relationship, I moved into my own little apartment. It was my first time living alone, and I was so proud. It was my space, my sanctuary. Alex was a big part of that. He helped me move in, helped me paint the walls, and even bought me a housewarming gift. It was a digital clock for my bedside table. It looked modern and sleek, and I thought it was a sweet, practical gift. I put it right by my bed, where I could see it every morning when I woke up. I never gave it a second thought. That little clock just became part of the background of my life, ticking away the days, months, and years. Life went on. We had our ups and downs like any couple. There were times he was a bit too controlling, a little too jealous, but I always brushed it off. I thought it was just because he loved me so much, that he was just being protective. He'd ask weirdly specific questions sometimes, like what I was wearing when I was just lounging at home, or who I was on the phone with. I'd laugh it off and tell him, thinking he was just curious. The thought that there could be something more sinister behind it never even crossed my mind. My friends would sometimes say he seemed a bit possessive, but I'd defend him. Love makes you blind to a lot of things. The years passed. 4 of them, to be exact. I was 25, and we were still together. The relationship had become rockier. The controlling behavior had gotten worse. The arguments were more frequent. I started to feel suffocated, like I couldn't breathe. I was losing myself, and I knew something had to change. I finally gathered the courage to end it. It was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. He didn't take it well. There was a lot of begging, a lot of promises to change, but my gut told me I had to stick to my decision. After we broke up, I started the process of reclaiming my space and myself. I was cleaning out my apartment, trying to get rid of all the things that reminded me of him. It was cathartic, packing away memories, making a fresh start. I was dusting my bedside table when I picked up the digital clock he had given me all those years ago. It felt a little heavier than a normal clock. I turned it over in my hands, just out of curiosity. And that's when I saw it. A tiny, almost invisible pinhole on the front, just below the digital display. My heart stopped. It just stopped. My blood ran cold. I frantically started examining it, my hands shaking. On the back, hidden under a small plastic panel, I found a tiny slot for an SD card. It all clicked into place in that one horrifying moment. The weirdly specific questions. The knowing things he couldn't have possibly known. The feeling of being watched. It wasn't a clock. It was a camera. A hidden camera that had been in my bedroom, pointed at my bed for 4 years. I felt like I was going to be sick. The room started spinning. My sanctuary, my private space, had been violated in the most profound way imaginable. Every private moment, every time I'd changed, every time I'd cried myself to sleep after a fight with him, every time I was just being myself in my own room, he had been watching. It was a level of betrayal I couldn't comprehend. The person I had loved and trusted more than anyone in the world had been spying on me for years. The shock quickly turned to a deep, gut-wrenching anger. I immediately packed the clock in a bag, drove to the police station, and filed a report. The officers were incredibly supportive and took my statement seriously. Handing over that clock as evidence was one of the most empowering moments of my life. It was me taking back control. The legal process was long and draining. It forced me to confront the full extent of his deception. But with every step, I felt a little bit of my power returning. He ultimately faced legal consequences for his actions, which brought a sense of justice. But the emotional and psychological scars run deep. The journey to healing has been long. I went to therapy, which was absolutely crucial. Talking about it, processing the trauma with a professional, helped me understand that this was not my fault. His actions were a reflection of him, not of me. I had to learn to trust again, not just others, but my own judgment. It was a slow process, filled with anxiety and paranoia. For a long time, I checked every corner of my room, every object for hidden devices. I had to rebuild my sense of safety from the ground up. I'm sharing this story not for pity, but to raise awareness. This can happen to anyone. It's so important to trust your gut instincts. If something feels off in a relationship, it probably is. Controlling behavior is not love. Jealousy is not a sign of affection. It's a red flag. If you ever feel unsafe or suspect you are being monitored, please know that you are not alone, and it is not your fault. Reach out to the police, tell a trusted friend or family member, and seek professional help. There are resources available to support you. Your safety and your privacy are your right. It took time, but I have reclaimed my life. I am stronger now. I know my worth, and I will never again let anyone dim my light or violate my sanctuary. Thank you for listening to my story. Please stay safe, trust your intuition, and know that help is always available.